With hundreds of thousands of people going missing each year, the families of the missing want answers, want help, want the truth. For those who hold the answers, time is running out. Many missing persons cases do not get the attention that they deserve. That's where we come in. Welcome to the Weekly Remind. Hi, welcome to the channel and our weekly show, The Weekly Remind. My name is Steve Stone. I'm the host of the Grimm Truth Podcast and Executive Director of Grimm Media. My media company, this show, and the podcast are dedicated to help the families of the missing get their stories out and be a voice for the voiceless in search of the truth. The last 15 weeks or so, I have spoken with families from all walks of life. They have a loved one who's missing, gone, vanished without a trace. Like the podcast does, this show will profile the cases of the missing in the hopes that we can generate leads, media attention, and finally the truth that brings their loved ones home. We hope to bring attention to the grief and pain that these families go through. Often, the very place these families turn to for help are not doing enough to bring their loved ones home. Our mission and promise to you is to bring the stories of the missing, the stories of their families, and how they are coping, the human side of the tragedy. News and information that hopefully will keep you in the know and giving you the tools necessary in case the unthinkable happens. Finally, as we tell the stories and give hope, we also want to celebrate those who are found. So let's begin this journey together. The first case we profiled on the podcast was that of Christopher Sanders. Chris Sanders went missing on August 13th, 2017 around 9 a.m. The case is Chris went for a walk, leaving his truck doors open with the alarm going off. Witnesses say that Chris was contacted by Cody, a relative of Chris's, who also stayed at the park and worked with the same company. According to the story, Chris told Cody that he was going for a walk and wanted to be left alone. I've done 2 episodes on Chris Sanders, and we've been unable to verify what was said on that phone call because we haven't been able to make contact with Cody. Chris also spoke to his wife the night before he went missing, and there was an argument that, according to witnesses, took place between Chris and his wife, Angela. Angela interviewed with us on episode 2, and she disputes that fact. She claims that Chris was upset about money owed him, and she stated that they just weren't fighting. He was upset about the per diem. There, to date, have been no searches conducted for Chris. However, the case is still open. I never like to speculate on cases, especially in this one. It seems as we go, we learn more bits of information that help put the pieces of the puzzle together. However, we're not there yet. We need to hear from Cody and discuss the phone call that took place that day Chris went for his walk. It's my feeling that if we hear from Cody, we can able to put another piece of that puzzle together in search for the truth. It's also my feeling that someone close to Chris knows what may have happened to him, and all it takes is for someone to come forward. Christopher Sanders was last seen wearing a black hat with a TSC t-shirt and boots. He was walking on foot. Chris has several tattoos seen here in the flyer. Please make sure you take a good look. There is a $1,000 reward to anyone that has any information that leads to the whereabouts of Christopher Sanders. If you have any information, please contact Philip Reading at 432-493-3254. If you want to talk about Chris's case for an upcoming episode and you have information that is pertinent to his case, please contact me at stevestone@thegrimmtruth.com. Again, that's stevestone@thegrimmtruth.com. The second case I profiled was that of Ashley Carousel. Ashley was a beautiful young woman who loved to sing. She disappeared from an adult living facility on December the 3rd, 2020. Michelle, Ashley's mother, was doing TV, radio, anything she could to bring attention to her daughter's case. Unfortunately, on January the 22nd, 2021, the remains of Ashley were found just a short distance away from where she lived. Finding Ashley, no matter how tragic, turned sadness into action, as Michelle has become an advocate for change. She is working with legislators to change laws where missing persons with mental disabilities are concerned. Michelle also still has concerns about how Ashley passed away. For more information on Ashley's case and the important work Michelle is doing, please visit the page at www.facebook.com/groups/Ashley Carousel Missing. As we move to the third case that we profiled on the podcast, this is the case of a mother of three, Veronica Marlene Miñarez Reyes. Veronica, who is married with 3 children, went missing January the 18th, 2020 from Plant City, Florida. Veronica dropped her 2 children off at her sister's house, leaving the third with her husband. It was in the afternoon when she went back to the house to get finished getting ready for the night out. Her and some friends were going to a restaurant nearby. The story goes that Veronica came home around 1:15 a.m., picked up the 2 children at her sister's house, returned back home, and put them to bed. Video camera footage outside the trailer park where Veronica lived shows Veronica coming home, but not leaving. Again, she put the children to bed, and the next morning, she was gone. The keys to her Chevy Yukon and wallet were still at home. Again, there was no evidence that Veronica left the trailer park again that night. There has been no sighting of her since, and there is no one else to look at in her disappearance. My thoughts on the case are that someone close to Veronica knows what happened to her. This has put a strain on our children, especially one who recently was caught looking at a flyer of his missing mother, wondering where she is. Maybe you can help this young man and the family get the answers they so desperately need. Veronica Marlene Miñarez Reyes had burgundy hair, brown eyes. She was 4'11" and 150 pounds. She was wearing a white and gray long-sleeve cropped shirt, blue jeans, and blue sandals. Veronica has a mole near her left eye, and she possibly had her glasses with her at the time of her disappearance. If you have any information on the whereabouts of Veronica, or information that somebody may know where she is, please contact the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office at 813-247-8000. Again, that's 813-247-8000. These next 2 cases are about 2 sisters, both who suffer from mental illness. And this is a stigma that can prevent cases like this to be worked as thoroughly as others. It is a sad but true statement, and it's not fair, and it needs to change. Today we're looking for your help to bring these 2 girls home. Misty began 17 when she went missing from her home in Rice, Texas. On April 19th, 2020, she walked out of her front door, never to be seen or heard from again. One of the issues with Misty's case is that she has a mental condition that will at times cause her to run away. Misty suffers from depression, bipolar, and schizophrenia disorders. I have spoken to the Rice Police Department, and they have told me personally that they are working the case very diligently. That being said, they also stated that they were very familiar with Misty, and it was my understanding that they meant that they were familiar with the fact that she ran away frequently from the home and it's something that they were used to. However, the circumstance, Misty is missing and not with her family, and she needs to be found. Misty McGinn was last seen wearing a gray and yellow Gas Monkey hoodie with gray and black sweatpants. The hoodie she was last seen in is also posted here on this flyer. It's the third picture here in the second row. Misty has brown hair, and at the time of her disappearance, it was dyed reddish pink. She is 5'3", weighing about 140 to 160 pounds, with brown eyes. Misty does have a tattoo inside of her left arm, and that tattoo is also shown here in the flyer on the bottom left-hand side. If you have any information on the whereabouts of Misty McGinn, please contact the Rice PD at 903-326-4146. If the McGinn family didn't have enough going on, Misty's sister Maggie is also missing. She was last seen March 8, 2021 in Rice, Texas. Maggie also suffers from medical issues which require medication daily. Maggie suffers from depression, bipolar, and a sleeping disorder. It's no secret that because of the issues they suffer from, they were prone to running away. But is that a reason not to look? Well, the answer to that question is simple. No. The family has done everything humanly possible to keep both sets of eyes on the girls. They have gone so far as to put security systems in the home to know the comings and goings inside the house. Maggie is 17. She's 5'6", 162 pounds, with blue eyes, and her hair was dyed red. If you have any information on Maggie's whereabouts, please contact the Rice PD again at 903-326-4146. Again, 903-326-4146. The cases involving mentally ill people should be handled like a missing child. At least that's my opinion. What makes the McGinn case so frustrating is Misty was a minor when she went missing. However, she since turned 18. Maggie is 17, and she's not being treated as a missing person. It is my humble opinion that people with a mental disability should be treated just as vulnerably as an endangered child. An alert system should be updated to account for this, and it should happen now. Nothing can be more painful than having your loved one missing. That is, unless they've been missing for more than a decade. Here are two cases that fit that exact bill. Joseph Little Joe Bain went missing from Marshall, Texas on January 25th, 2001. Joe's case has always been about a supposed phone call, and then he just disappeared. It goes like this. Joe was getting ready for bed, and he received a telephone call. Witnesses stated that Joe appeared to be upset, got dressed, told his best friend Coley's girlfriend that he was going out and would be back in the morning to watch their dogs. When I started researching for this case, I really wanted to talk to Coley. Now, Coley is Joe's best friend, hunting buddy, roommate. In the beginning, I sent several messages to Coley asking to get his version of the night's events on the day that Joe disappeared. He finally responded, and I sent him several questions that he was willing to answer. He agreed to do the podcast. However, when it came time to do the interview, he wanted it to be rescheduled. And then he wanted to be rescheduled again. Weeks go by. I follow up with him. And finally, he said he changed his mind and didn't want to do the podcast. He then blocked me on Facebook, and that was it. I feel that if this was Joe's best friend, I wouldn't want him to be my friend. If you care deeply for someone, you're going to do whatever it takes to help out a friend, right? Not in this case. Joe's family has done everything to get the answers to what happened to Joe that night. It doesn't make sense that Joe would leave a wallet, keys, his cigarettes, and just take off to parts unknown. The Grimm Truth Podcast is following this case very closely, and we will continue to update it when they're available. Joseph Little Joe Bain went missing on January the 25th, 2001. He was approximately 6 feet tall, weighing 130 pounds. He was last seen wearing a camo army jacket, a gray shirt, blue jeans, and boots. It is my thought, in this case, like several others, someone very close to Joe knows what happened to him, and it's going to take that person to break this case. If you have any information on the whereabouts of Joseph Bain, please contact the Marshall PD at 903-407-7519. Again, that's 903-407-7519. There is a $10,000 reward for information in this case. The next cold case we covered was that of Michael Curtis Hawley, who went missing from Detroit, Michigan on February the 14th, 2007. Michael was with his girlfriend and a roommate drinking some beers when the girlfriend started an argument with the roommate. When Michael went to break it up, Michael then began to fight with his girlfriend. The girlfriend contacted her father and stated that Michael hit her. As they were walking down the road, they reached a payphone where Michael contacted his family to try to get picked up. It was around 1 a.m. and a massive storm was coming through. Michael stated to his family that he was afraid that he was going to get killed if he stuck around. That was the last time anyone heard from him. The girlfriend explained to family members that she dropped Michael off at an abandoned house and he was perfectly fine when they left. However, when the police questioned the girlfriend and her father, they both requested an attorney. Some backstory on this case was the girlfriend's father was arrested in the past for assaulting Michael just months before Michael disappeared. So Michael did have a reason to be concerned for his safety. And it's safe to say that the girlfriend knows what happened to Michael. The fact that her and her father lawyered up speaks volumes. Michael Curtis Hawley has brown hair, hazel eyes. He's listed at 65 inches tall and 140 pounds. Michael has a tattoo on his right arm that says Amanda and another tattoo on his left arm that says Mob. Finally, he has another tattoo of a snake on his chest. If you have any information on the whereabouts of Michael Curtis Hawley, please contact the Taylor PD in Michigan at 734-347-1446. Again, that's 734-347-1446. We've discussed the stigma regarding mental health and how difficult getting law enforcement to give the case as much interest as it would if it was a person from the suburbs. The same stigma applies to those with a history of drug abuse and criminal background. I've said this a lot on my podcast, and I'll say it here. None of this should matter when it comes to the missing. All of the cases should be treated the same no matter what side of the track a person comes from, no matter what history of dependency they have or their criminal record. These are people, and they have families that care about them, period. Our next case takes us back to Plant City, Florida, which was the same area Veronica Miñarez Reyes went missing. We have another case, unrelated, but it's just as head-scratching. Kaya Taylor, 28, was last seen on February 6, 2020. Around 4 p.m. on a Thursday, she left a residence on Cowart Road in Plant City after dropping her boyfriend off, Jason. Her car was found around 7 p.m., abandoned on East Trapnell Road, just west of Jap Tucker Road in Plant City. The car was unlocked and still running when it was found on the railroad tracks. Now, Kaya was in a relationship with Jason, and we tried interviewing him for the podcast. However, once he agreed to do the interview, he avoided my calls altogether. Kaya's family has been a strong group and has been a huge advocate for Kai's case. This case, like so many others, has a lot of issues, especially in the beginning. How it was investigated, how it was handled, the placement of the car, and so forth. The family has done a fantastic job of keeping Kai's name and photo out in social media, and it's working. Working so well, in fact, Kai's aunt, Hope Taylor, was recently put in Facebook jail for promoting her niece's case. This can only mean they're hitting close to home, and someone doesn't want the constant reminder that their time is running out. TikTok. Kaya Taylor had red auburn hair and brown eyes. She's 5'6" and 170 pounds. If you have any information on this case, please contact the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office at 813-247-8000. Again, that's 813-247-8000. Next up, we have another cold case, this time from Rainier, Oregon. Teresa Davidson Murphy went missing on October 7th, 1999. She was last seen by her husband, Richard Murphy. Richard stated that he last saw Teresa at home before he left for a camping trip in Browns Creek in the Olympic National Forest. I spoke with Jessica, Teresa's daughter, who was a teenager at the time her mother went missing. She explained she was dropped off at a relative's house and was only supposed to be there for 3 days, when in fact she was there for over a week. She was picked up by Richard, who was her stepdad, and he advised her that her mother just skipped town, and had not been seen. Jessica said it was unlike her mother to just run off because, one, they had such a close relationship and they always spoke. Once she got back home, she was able to contact her biological father and made arrangements to go live with him and her brother. As for Richard, he's moved on with his life, with not so much a care for what happened to Teresa. This case is another we will be continuing to follow up on and do another episode in the future, so stay tuned. Teresa has blue eyes, brown hair. She was approximately 6 foot tall, weighing at about 130 pounds. If you have any information on this case, please contact the Oregon State Police at 503-731-3020. Again, that's 503-731-3020. One of the most challenging things I've encountered when researching missing persons cases, especially for the podcast, is finding the truth. However, in some cases, you get the truth. Sometimes it's uncomfortable to hear, but nonetheless, it's refreshing. That's what happened in this next case. Eric Alvarado was 32 when he went missing from Atlanta, Texas on November the 20th, 2018. Eric was a promising tattoo artist who was a rising star already launching his own business. However, Eric did make a living selling marijuana. I make it a point never to judge anyone on how they choose to live their life. Eric did what he thought he needed to do in order to provide for his family. Eric was a father, and he was considered a bit of a homebody. He really didn't venture out too much. He helped raise the kids with his wife Samantha and did a lot of work around the house. Eric had an altercation with a man just 18 days before his disappearance at a gas station. There is also another young man who was coming around right before Eric went missing, who Eric was using to sell marijuana. It was said that the man Eric had an altercation with and the young man that was helping Eric sell the marijuana knew each other and were connected in some way. On the night of Eric's disappearance, Samantha stated that they were getting ready for bed and there was a knock on the door. Eric answered the door and Samantha fell asleep. She woke up a bit later and stated that she thought Eric was acting a bit strange. Eric stated a little later that he needed to go get a can of dip, which Samantha thought was in the vehicle. However, instead, Eric gets in the vehicle along with his 2 dogs, left the house, never to be seen again. After a few hours go by, Samantha contacts the police to see if Eric had been in an accident or had been pulled over, because she had not heard from him. However, later, a search was conducted, and the dogs were found deceased in an area just inside of Ogden, Arkansas. A couple of feet from where the dogs were found, attached to the fence, were Eric's car keys clipped. Eric Alvarado is 6'5", 280 pounds, with black hair and hazel eyes. Eric has multiple tattoos, as seen here on the slide. If you have any information on the whereabouts of Eric Alvarado, please contact the Atlanta, Texas PD at 903-796-7973. Or you can contact Texas Ranger Joshua Mason at 903-225-5727. And finally, you can also reach the Ogden PD at 870-898-5640. Next up is a case of Kayleen Oling, who went missing from Etna, Pennsylvania. This case is concerning on many levels because of the incident surrounding the person of interest and his behavior. Kayleen went missing on January the 10th, 2020. She was seeing an older man by the name of Mike Mano. He was much, much older and had a long criminal history. Kayleen was 20 at the time of her disappearance. However, she did live with her mother. Her mom and her had a falling out, and she went to go stay with Mike Mano. This relationship did not last long, and Kayleen ended up coming home. It was at this point that Mike and Kayleen began having a heated argument over text messages and social media. Kayleen called Mike out, discussing a robbery he committed at a laundromat, and that Kayleen was going to tell the authorities. Mike had a piece of jewelry that belonged to Kayleen, and Kayleen wanted it back. They set up a time on January 10th to meet to discuss things and for her to get the item back. We do know through records that Mike and Kayleen met at some point in the early morning hours. Kayleen was scheduled to return back home to babysit, however, she never made it. The issue with Mike Mano, other than his ridiculous criminal history, is his innate ability to help himself by not looking like he's guilty. He's gone so far as to send naked pictures of Kayleen to her father and younger sister. Again, I make it a point to try to keep an open mind. However, in this case, it's very difficult. Kayleen is 5'2", 110 pounds. She has brown hair, brown eyes, and wears glasses. If you have any information on this case, please contact the Allegheny County Homicide Unit at 414-473-3000. Again, that's 414-473-3000. These next two cases seem to be related, although we can't say for certain. We can't say for certain that they went missing at the same time, or the same day, or together. The frustrating thing about this case is that the same group of people are all involved. And also, it's a small town. There are a lot of people that care about these cases and want answers, and they want the truth. Let's hope someone out there, maybe you, can help get that truth. First, we look at the case of Will Polk, 23 years old, went missing on October the 10th, 2019, in Crowder, Mississippi. Will was hanging out at a house owned by a lady by the name of Katie May. This house was a flop house where people would come, hang out, do drugs, and drink. Will wasn't feeling well and asked his mother to bring him some medicine and a soda. Will's mom drops off the items and talks to him for a bit, then leaves. Having that uneasy feeling that mothers get from time to time, she had Will's dad take her back down there later on that day. When Will's mom knocks on the door to the house, another young man answered and said he hadn't seen Will in weeks. Will's mom stated that she was just there hours ago and that was impossible. Will also hung out at another place who was owned by a man by the name of Dexter, who was alleged to be a drug dealer. However, since the podcast aired, Dexter wanted me to correct the record, stated that he is a self-admitted user, not a dealer. Will met a young woman there by the name of April Jones. April was living at Dexter's when she began to have an intimate relationship with Will. It has been said that this pissed Dexter off quite a bit, and April was told to leave. Now, during the research for this case, we learned through April's eldest daughter that April called her on October the 7th, and she was at a hotel, but she was not with Will. This is why I cannot say for certain that they went missing on the same day or even together. However, the fact that they are missing is the only thing that really matters. Will Polk has dark brown hair, hazel eyes, and is 5'2" and 120 pounds. He has a tattoo of a cross with a banner on his right arm and the word Smith on the left side of his chest. April Jones has brown hair, blue eyes. She's 5'4" and 110 pounds. She has a tattoo on her right foot and a tattoo on each of her wrists. If you have any information on Will Polk or April Jones, please contact the Quitman County Sheriff's Office at 662-326-3131. Again, that's 662-326-3131. This next case is one I've gotten attached to. What I mean by that is this young man felt at times that he was alone. When I began researching the case, I found out he wasn't alone. It was quite the opposite. Andrew DeWeese went missing on September the 12th, 2020 from Perryville, Arkansas. Andrew was battling an addiction to meth and had been in trouble with the law. So much so that he spent a little time in prison. I spoke with a young woman by the name of Amanda who was seeing Andrew right before he went to prison. They split up but remained friends. With Andrew and his personality, it seemed it was so hard to stay mad at the young man. Andrew got out of prison and was seeing another woman by the name of Joanna. Andrew was clean and he even had a job. The unfortunate thing, however, being sober, is the relapse, and it always happens. So Andrew moved back to Perryville, where his friends and family lived. He was back to using again and kind of just living day to day. However, Andrew was not without friendship. Andrew's case takes a turn when he was getting a ride from a young woman by the name of Tiffany. The car they were into breaks down, and they needed a serpentine belt to get it fixed. Andrew did have a warrant for his arrest for absconding and did not like the idea of going back to jail. On his way back from the auto parts store with the parts of the car, he observes police and begins running into a wooded area to avoid arrest. This would be the last time anyone admits to seeing Andrew alive. There have been several stories going around about what happened to Drew. Many seem to think Andrew stole money, stole some drugs, and he was murdered. There's another version of that story that a prison gang known as the New Aryan Empire, or NAE, had a hand in Andrew's disappearance. I have had several unnamed sources come to me with information that I will be going forward to law enforcement with in the coming days, in the hopes that this sheds light on what happened to Andrew. There is no doubt in my mind that someone close to Andrew knows what happened to him. The time for that person is running out. I hope this information that I'm submitting this week brings that person to light. Andrew Deweese is 5'10", 130 pounds, with black hair, brown eyes. He has multiple tattoos and 2 teardrops on his face. If you have any information on Andrew, please contact the Crawford County Sheriff's Office at 479-474-2261. Again, that's 479-474-2261. Now we're going to look into the case of Kaylin Knutson. Kaylin went missing from Arlington, West Virginia on June 12, 2020. Kaylin, like many others, had his battle with addiction, and he tried very hard to get a handle on it. It's difficult to put yourself in a person's shoes when they're dealing with an addiction. He was a family man, and he was with a young lady by the name of Crystal. He was clean for a time, but then like most people, when they're first getting sober, they relapse. On the day Kaylin went missing, he had gotten off of work, gone to the bank, withdrew $200, got some fishing stuff, and went to a camping area there in West Virginia with some friends. It was said that Kaylin was in the river fishing and swimming, and then he just disappeared. Now, he was with several co-workers, and some of those co-workers I've been able to talk with. They said that Kaylin was in good spirits, and he was not in any way having any issues while he was swimming in the river. Kaylin did have a tendency to discuss about hitchhiking and wanting to do that with a friend by the name of Dakota on the day in question. However, when Kaylin went missing, his wallet with the money and his other belongings were left on the shoreline of the river, but he was gone. No one has seen or heard from Kaylin since, and his girlfriend believes he wouldn't just up and leave because he did have a young son at home. Kaylin Knutson was 5 foot 11 inches tall and 160 pounds. He has reddish brown hair and blue eyes. Kaylin has tattoos on his right forearm with the name Vernon Knutson. He has the Grateful Dead bear, Oogie Boogie, also. On his left bicep, there's the Tree of Life and a cartoon chicken. On his stomach, there's a tattoo of a dragon, and he has 11 ants tattooed on his leg. If you have any information on the whereabouts of Kaylin Knutson, please contact the police at 304-799-4101. Again, that's 304-799-4101. This next case is one that I got very emotional on. And it's because it involves an 18-month-old baby. James Avi Sherez, an 18-month-old kid, was last seen January the 4th, 2021 on a surveillance camera at a Walgreens at the 7600 block of Military Drive in San Antonio, Texas. The issue with this case right off the bat is the lack of attention that was paid by the San Antonio Police Department and Children Protective Services in San Antonio. James's aunt, Marisol, had done everything humanly possible to do a welfare check since the family hadn't seen James since Thanksgiving. Every time Marisol would try to get to see James, the mother would find a reason why not to let them see the kid. Delaney would come up with excuses, oh, the baby's sick, He's not home right now. He's with a friend. The sad thing is, Delaney didn't have many friends, and there weren't many other people that would have James other than James's aunt. So the police were called to do a welfare check. However, they did not demand Delaney provide James as proof that he was okay. This led to some more consternation to try to get CPS involved, and they too would not look into the welfare of young James. What's unfortunate now is that Delaney has been arrested on felony child endangerment charges, and she's currently sitting in jail. However, James is also still not missing. There has not been an Amber Alert. There's been nothing in the way to try to locate young James. Furthermore, another scary fact was a search of Delaney's house showed evidence of some blood on a sheet, and that was taken in as evidence. The problem with this case, too, is that Delaney had stated that James was given up for adoption. However, all the clothes were still in the house, diapers, all of his belongings were still there, and you'd think that if he was adopted, those things would have been turned over. This is one of those cases where you hope for the best, but as the time goes by, you fear the worst. James is approximately 32 inches tall and weighed 34 pounds. He has dirty blonde hair with a reddish tint and beautiful brown eyes. Again, he was last seen January 4th, 2021 on a surveillance camera at a Walgreens, the 7600 block of Military Drive in San Antonio, Texas. He has a huge dimple on his right cheek, and he has bad eczema. Anyone who has seen baby James or his mom in around the time after January 4th, 2021 should contact the San Antonio Police Department Special Victims Unit at 210-207-2313. Again, that's 210-207-2313. It's very important that any information regarding James gets reported to the police immediately. This young man needs to be found. The one thing about missing persons cases is you want to be able to help and act right away. And a lot of these cases, especially with COVID, you can't do it. These cases are all across the world. All across the country, rather, and you want to go out and help. In this last story, I actually was able to do that. I got a call from a family asking for help, and they live in Rhode Island, and this young man was local in Clearwater, Florida, which is about a 40-minute drive from my house. I'm going to tell you the story of Timothy Wynn. Timothy Wynn was down here in Florida. He came down to spend time with one of his children and his ex-girlfriend. Now, at the time, and it didn't work out. Tim began living life on the streets, doing his thing, and people knew where he was. However, Tim was arrested for a charge which was later dropped, but he spent about a month in jail where he was released just under terrible circumstances. And what I mean by that is, again, the charges were dropped. So he was in jail for a month for basically no reason. Charges are dropped, and he gets released. When they released him, with basically no clothes, just in his boxers. He wasn't able to make arrangements for anybody because his scheduled release was a day after. However, he was released early, a little bit after midnight. So he wasn't able to make arrangements to have anybody meet him or come pick him up. So I was given the case, and I was contacted by Tim's sister. And we spoke, and she explained to me the area that Tim was kind of hanging out at. And this was an area that I was very familiar with down in Clearwater. I explained to Tim's sister that I was able to go down there and with Tim's picture and see if I could ask around and see if anybody had seen him, to try to get a location and see if he'd been around. So the following day, I go down with my 18-year-old daughter, and we go down to what they called Largo Central Park down there, just right outside of Clearwater. And I begin to show Tim's picture around to the various people hanging out at the park. I came up to several gentlemen who pointed me in the direction of Clearwater Largo Road, and that was another hangout spot. So we drive down to Clearwater Largo Road, where I see a man in a cowboy hat with the hole cut out of the top, and a red handkerchief and a walking stick. I pulled into a gas station, and I explained to my daughter that I would wanted to talk to this young man. As I approached him, his face was covered with a handkerchief, of course, and I showed him the picture, and I said, hey, I'm looking for this guy. His name's Tim. His family's really concerned about him, and they just want to get him home. And the young man pulled his face covering off, and I was staring at the same man whose picture I had in my hand. Not knowing what to do at the moment, my jaw just dropped, and I just said, hey man, you need to call your sister. Did they miss you? I was overcome with emotion and adrenaline, because I had no expectation of finding anyone. I had no expectation of being able to locate this young man. And there was adrenaline going. There was just, it was a very humbling experience. And to be able to contact Tim's family and let them know that I had located their loved one was a euphoric feeling, joy, and a feeling of accomplishment that you were able to locate a person and reunite them with their family. The sad part about, the only sad part about Tim's case is the law enforcement agency who the family had contacted, they weren't even looking for him. And what bothered me was it took me 35 minutes to locate Tim, and they didn't bother to even waste that much time. However, the good news is that Tim went back to Rhode Island, and he is doing very well. I had the pleasure of speaking with him just yesterday, and he sounds terrific. He is looking to get a job here shortly, and he just sounds great. I was brought to tears just being able to talk to him and reconnect, and I consider him a friend. It's a humbling experience, and I said when I started doing this that even if I found one person that, I felt that I made a difference. In Tim's case, I felt that. And even when I talk about it now, I still feel that emotion, and it feels great. I want to be able to do that for all these cases. And I think the more that we talk about these cases, the more that we show these flyers and bring attention to these cases, the more positive I feel that we can do something similar with other families that we did with Tim's case. Now, not all cases are going to have a happy ending, but regardless of that, families need that truth. They need that closure, and hopefully that's something we can do here on the Weekly Remind, on the Grimm Truth Podcast, and with Grimm Media. I want Grimm Media and this show, I want us to be the media for the missing, the voice. We can reach so many people, and it's a way that we can take social media, which has a lot of negatives, and turn it into a huge positive. And you guys can be along that journey with me. I want to thank you very much for tuning in to this first episode of the Weekly Remind, and I have no doubt it's going to get better. I have no doubt that as we move forward, we are going to do great things, and I can't wait to continue this journey with you. We will have a show next week. I have not yet decided what we're going to do it on. I think there's a case I'm looking at to do. We will be going over some cases that we're going to be profiling in the future, as well as hopefully down the road doing interviews with advocates and interviews with other cases where we can discuss them and things that we can do better to help find the missing. Again, thank you so much for tuning in to this first episode of the Weekly Remind, and please hit that notification bell so you don't miss any episodes or any videos here on the channel, and please subscribe and share.